Look, I know it sounds crazy, but Baylor to the ACC is not this wild impossibility that we've been considering it to be. And the more that I've thought about it, the more I've thought Bears could end up on the East Coast. This is Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody. Against the demands of probably every listener out there, I've been asked and asked for us never to do a podcast together again after the debacles both on Monday and Wednesday. But we have taken extreme precautionary measures to make sure today's show is entertaining. I'm Drake Toll alongside Cam Stewart. He's with Inside the Bears. So if you've ever wondered what it looks like to be inside a Bear, Cam Stewart has been in a Bear and could tell you. That's who he works for. It's a branch of Sports Illustrated. I'm Drake Toll. I think I already said that. I'll say it again. Cam, there's one thing.
Yes, I do. I do tell people I work for Sports Illustrated. Yeah.
As you should. I do that too sometimes. Yeah. I too have psychosis. You actually do work for Sports Illustrated though, a branch of. Yeah. I accept that. I today was thinking, I read an article from Matthew Postins at
also works for Sports Illustrated. Yeah.
He does. Yeah. At Heartland College Sports. Right. And I thought, I love what Matthew Postins does. This thing says how the Big 12 falls apart and dies. So I thought, all right, what? June 15th, 2021, right? We were all saying that. Mm-hmm. July 1st, 2022 is when this article was published. The first thing he mentions, West Virginia and others go to the ACC. So I started thinking, what have I not considered? That's the fact.
That's the one thing I haven't considered.
In all of this, the ACC still exists. And if they lose Clemson or Florida State, which I'm sure they feel like they're going to, there's a contingency plan there. They're a strong enough conference and a strong enough brand, especially being on the East Coast where college athletics is still decently big, where they would go after other schools. And while Baylor may not be in the actual top 4 or top 8 for the SEC, get the ACC on the phone. I promise you, Baylor's right there. And maybe that's a call Mack Rhodes answers.
He is the discussion. I don't see it.
Why?
I don't see it.
Why wouldn't you see it? Why couldn't Baylor go to the ACC?
It just doesn't make sense. Really from either side, but especially from Baylor's side. We have talked ad nauseum the last month and a half about how stable the Big 12 is and how great Bob Bowlesby is, and we give him a round of applause every show.
As we should. Hey, everybody outside, if you're listening to this show, wherever you are, on the subway, at home, clap for Bob.
Please do.
Put it out for Bob Bowlesby. Thank you very much.
Brett Yormark wants us to every day, so we're going to keep up that contractual obligation.
It's our daily homage to Bob Bowlesby.
So, and the Big 12 is stable, and it's great for Baylor because of who you're playing, what your recruiting competition is, and where you're playing.
Okay.
There's no reason to leave it for the ACC. The SEC, I did think you were a little crazy on, but less crazy on that one than the ACC. And that has some benefits to Baylor. They still do get kind of a regionality of it. They still would play A&M and UT. That's brilliant. Yeah. And you go to a better conference that makes a lot more money and is great for prestige. The ACC is not going to be that in the next couple of years. They're not. And West Virginia should go to the ACC.
So you think
it makes a lot more sense geographically,
right?
And with how competitive West Virginia is in the Big 12, especially in football, it's a lateral move. In fact, maybe better competition-wise for football for them. So, but Baylor, it's not. You'd still be good in the ACC in football, to be honest with you, but that conference stinks and it sinks, which is what it's going to do in the next couple of years. As we've talked about, it's one of those conferences without Clemson and Florida State. You struggle to have much of anything.
Well, they're good
about the Charlotte market that you're always going to have. I just love getting into market talks as a guy who was in local news. Just love getting into market talks.
You got to double your market size every 2 years, by the way, if you're in local news. That's the goal.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
Really?
You'll have Miami, decent market, right? But as you pointed out, I'm going to use your own argument against you.
All right,
some of those Pac-12 teams.
Oh, yeah.
Who cares in Miami? Who cares?
Well, Miami actually doesn't have a college, by the way. Just throwing it out there.
Coral Gables. Who cares about the Coral Gables market?
You know how far away the stadium is from the actual Miami where they play football, the Orange Bowl. Is that what they still call it? The Orange Bowl? Is that a thing still? They tore that one thing down. I feel like I should know this, but I don't.
We should, but we don't.
Yeah, you don't either.
Neither of us do.
Yeah, we do a lot of research on sports, just not specifically Coral Gables sports. They have to drive like 40. If you're a student at Miami, shout out if you're listening, by the way. You are a third year, you're a junior. You want to go to a football game? Well, A, you're probably going to see a bad football team play football. B, you're going to drive 45 minutes on a good traffic day to do so for a home game.
Yeah.
45 minutes for a TCU away game.
So you don't really have that market.
No, yeah.
I'm going to let you in on something. By that math, you also don't have the Boston market because nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Whoa.
Even
BC?
when they're good.
Come on.
No, Drake, I know you've been there for a month.
You ever been to a hockey game? You ever been to a BC hockey game?
I have been. I don't like BC.
Huge.
I've been to a BU BC game.
Huge.
It's very nice. But nobody cares. They don't play hockey in the ACC, Drake. They play football some years. They used to play basketball, and that's about it. And they're not good at all in either of those sports, and no one cares. And to go back to my original point about why I brought up BC, because like Coral Gables, it is Boston College is what BC stands for, by the way. Not in Boston, not a college, Newton University in Chestnut Hill. So you don't really have that market either. They think they have New York because they have Syracuse. Guess what, Drake? You know what I'm going to say next? It's
don't say
words.
It. Stop it.
They don't care. Ever since Larry Zonka left, they don't really care. Now, I'll give you Donovan McNabb and Marvin Harrison, but you don't have good football in the ACC to begin with. Why does Baylor want to go there?
Cam?
It makes no sense regionally. You have no rivalries in there. You don't care about gaining the recruiting advantage that you would get from going to the ACC. You don't care about getting Florida because A, you're getting Florida who's coming to the Big 12 anyway. And 2, you're in Texas. You don't care about getting Florida. What are the advantages, Drake?
Blow your mind. You ready for this?
Because you probably have something I haven't thought of in the 40 minutes since you told me what we're going to talk about on this podcast. So go ahead.
I've been researching this. By the way, we shouted out the folks that are listening from Miami. Do want to take a quick second before I tell you exactly why Baylor to the ACC could be a gold mine. I'll let you know. Thank you also to our listeners. I looked up the analytics the other day because I was like, I don't know. I feel like we've been getting pretty good listenership recently. Where are they coming from? I didn't know. 24 listeners in Mexico. Thank you to you, 24. 24 in Germany as well. Mexico and Germany. Dankeschön.
Last episode might have helped quite a bit. Those Boise State fans listening in Germany.
Made a Germany reference. UK is 17, also tied with Canada. Nice. UK and Canada are right there. Both English-speaking countries, by the way. Makes a lot of sense. England, UK. Just behind them, Costa Rica. 16 listeners. Those in Costa Rica.
Thank you, Toby. Yep.
Hola. Yeah. Yep.
I would say gracias for thank you, but yes, hi is
hola. Yeah. Greeting. Austria is 11. A little Austria action.
Yeah.
The last 3 shout outs I'll give out. Portugal. We got 9 listeners in Portugal today. Hello. Things are about to get nuts.
Obrigado. Let's go all of them. Any in Liechtenstein, please?
Things are about to get nuts. The last 2 countries that I'd like to shout out our listeners. Malawi, 9 listeners in Malawi. Thank you to you. Very special shout out. Last but not least, to those out there listening in Tanzania. You are seen. You are not heard. We're heard. They are in Tanzania. But thank you very much to all the listeners from this country.
You are seen.
That's my ad read for my own personal thank you list that I had today.
I think you convinced me on the ACC just from that right there.
And that's why Baylor should go to the ACC because it's so spread out, kind of like our family of listeners. No. Cam, had Baylor been in the ACC last season, how many football games did they win?
Total?
How many regular season?
Well, I mean, they won almost all that you can anyway. They won 10 out of 12.
Who was better in football last year, the Big 12 or the ACC?
Oh, you've got some stupid number, but it is the Big 12.
Oh, it's the Big 12. Okay, how many regular season wins does 10-2 Baylor have in the ACC?
I might gamble and say 12, dude. They lost to, They lost to a good team and then one not so good team. And the only good team you could have played would have been Clemson or Wake Forest, who didn't beat any good teams, but they were in the top 15. NC State was all right. So I'm going to go ahead and say 11 to be on the conservative side instead of 10.
I would have probably said 11. I may have said 12 because Baylor could be
I
right
would
there.
go.
To play
I would
12.
go as far as 12.
I think 12 is a fine answer, especially with a down year for Clemson. Cam, Baylor basketball? Wait till I tell you. Top three in the ACC. North Carolina, obviously good. Duke's always good. Baylor,
Not a good. Well, you're saying this past year?
No, I'm saying like this past year, Baylor
general.
General.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm saying
Carolina did not have a good year last year. The regular season.
Well, the regular season. Okay, yeah. And then that, like Baylor.
Yes, they did end up with a good year.
Yes, Baylor's easily top 3 in the regular season in college basketball. I think Baylor goes. I'd go out on a limb to say Baylor goes further than the Sweet 16 if they're in the ACC. The reason being they don't see North Carolina around too. Yeah. Exactly. So basketball's top.
That was
3.
about the only second round matchup they feasibly could have lost.
Yeah. That was kind of the scheduling there was not the most fun thing in the world.
Not ideal. No.
A lot of folks thought that Carolina would get beat though by Marquette. A lot of weird people. It's not Shaka Smart.
I think I picked it just to be optimist. I wanted. I wanted Shaka Smart and Baylor.
And then Marquette got killed. Want that, Baylor got killed until they didn't anymore, and then they lost.
They lived and then lost it.
Cam, women's basketball. Baylor goes undefeated.
Who's good in it? Louisville?
Duke. Louisville's really good. Duke's really good. Baylor still wins a bunch of games. People here care about baseball. You care about baseball? Oh,
I do. I know a lot of people don't right now.
The Big 12 was freaking good at baseball this past season.
Yeah,
freaking good at baseball. Too. The ACC, okay, good.
It's good. Not as good as the Big 12.
Not as good as the Big 12, which again, more teams though. So yeah, you also have like BC. Syracuse doesn't have a team, do they? They shouldn't have a team.
No, they don't.
Yeah,
they don't. But you'll see plenty of Syracuse broadcasters in the Cape League.
Oh yeah, Newhouse, right?
Yeah.
No. And then what? Softball. You want tennis is great. Good competition. So all these sports combined.
Swimming. Hear me out. Polo.
Acrobatics and tumbling.
Men's and women's polo national champions.
Yeah, they were. Some field hockey teams, I bet. Northwestern national champions.
Yes, lacrosse.
Lacrosse in the ACC.
Men's and women's. BC's good at women's.
Baylor.
Go ahead. Yep.
In the ACC, there's nothing that keeps them out of the college football play. I'll go right here. There is 0 things that keep the Baylor Bears from the college football playoff in 2022 in the ACC.
Because they win 12 games.
Baylor goes and dominates the hell out of that conference in football.
The way they are right now,
they're in an elite basketball conference that you play Duke every year. They play UNC every year. You're in a baseball conference where you can hold your weight better than you can out of the big. Also, think about the Texas recruiting pool. You go to Florida, okay? You go to a kid who can't make it to the SEC. You go to a kid across the East Coast, and they're ACC kid. Hold on. I'm trying to think. And you say that we play football in Texas. These kids have been told their entire lives, football, everything is better and bigger in Texas. You can become recruiting dominant on the East Coast. Georgia's on the East Coast, by the way. They don't have any. They do Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech
guys now. Yes.
So
they some years play football.
You go to the ACC, Cam. You're on a gold mine of being the single best athletic department in the ACC. Aside from maybe like Virginia, who's really good at the sports that not a ton of people care about. That draw, if the Big 12 were to implode in any scenario whatsoever, you go to the ACC, this Baylor team becomes its Baylor sports program becomes the cream of the crop in that conference.
Yeah.
I think they're doing
pretty damn well in the Big 12, Drake. Last year and a half, they're the best athletic department in the country.
But they could do better. In the ACC.
These new age Baylor fans, they weren't there when we lost to Liberty. Yeah. Liberty's a team that could join the ACC.
Remember where I was. They could join the ACC at some point. They have to. Yes,
they would be very good in the ACC. I just, from an overall standpoint, I just don't think it makes sense. Mainly because they're also doing pretty well in the Big 12. They're holding their own and then some.
Yeah, they are.
And here you can take 45 minutes to go to a road game. Like you already talked about. You probably exaggerated a little bit. 45 minutes to TCU. But it just makes so much more sense to be in the Big 12.
Well, according to Matthew,
it would be wild. It would be wild. Like just Baylor there. Like no one goes with them. Like that would be nuts. would be nuts. Baylor at my namesake, Cameron Indoor Stadium, would be incredible.
There are
Incredible.
teams that was a conversation last summer. Does Baylor go to the Pac-12? And then Stanford was like, no, you love God, or whatever it was. People got upset about. Like, that was a whole big thing. I don't think Stanford ever really said that, but everybody was like, yeah, no.
I heard that. Though.
We can't go there because Cal is going to get pissed. Like, okay, what? So that was the big thing with the Pac-12 last year. Is people were like, Baylor to the ACC? And Oklahoma State and Texas Tech was in the conversation. And you talk about pods. So I don't think Baylor would necessarily go alone. So you'd still have to deal in football with Joey McGuire at Texas Tech. You'd have to deal with teams like maybe TCU in the ACC as well. But if Matthew Postins, here's what I want to do, Cam. I want to dissect the rest of this article. I'm going to make you sit here as I tell everybody about Bet Online. Do you have any Bet Online experiences, by the way?
I do.
Okay.
It's usually losing, but I'm not much of a gambler, and they really like it's all clear cut for me there. So I like going on Bet Online because it's kind of for dummies. Yeah. And I mean that in a good way. Like you don't get lost, you don't get scammed out. I just lose. I'm just not very good.
Would you say, this is just me kind of spitballing, that it's the fastest and easiest way to check on all your betting needs?
In terms of what I've seen, for sure, Jacob. Yeah.
Could you find that's big word, all of your favorite sports and events at the number one online source for odds?
I don't mean to call them out in an ad read, but I would like some more UVA polo. But other than that, yes, everything else. I've done some Indian Super League soccer.
Really? Yeah. Okay, I think it's Native American, by the way, but neither here nor there.
Thank you, the Mahatma. Yeah,
you can find. Sorry. You can find reviews and news of every league, NFL, baseball, NBA, all kinds of futures. Bet Online continues to be a top online source for all your sports betting needs. Bet Online today, it's where the game starts. Whoo, that one got me. To continue, our friend Matthew Postins says, that West Virginia go to the ACC, and that, there are plenty of other teams, like say the new Cincinnati, they end up going to the ACC because this is not completely impossible. UCF also belong in the ACC, so Baylor probably wouldn't go alone.
Take Iowa State with you.
He says further for the Big 12 to implode, that Kansas gets big, that they end up going to the Big 10, or even the Pac-12 gets on the horn and says, Kansas, come to us. And Kansas says, well, we're kind of miserable, period, no matter what we do. So, hey, why not? And then for the rest, you have teams like BYU who decides, we'll go to the Pac-12 too. We'll try to keep them from dying. But because look, travel for BYU in the Pac-12 will be so much easier. If the Pac-12 wants to stay alive.
It would, as it is right now, yeah.
If the Pac-12 wants to stay alive, to go poach BYU, keep Oklahoma or Oregon State, keep your Washington State, these teams intact, that's not impossible either. I think Matthew's kind of onto something when he comes to the idea that, all right, a couple of these new teams say, no, like you're UCF, you'd much rather play games in Florida, at Miami, right? Or you'd rather play games across the East Coast. Cincinnati, probably in that same boat, especially basketball wise. There are opportunities in this realignment, as crazy as it sounds. It was Cam. Yep. It was insane.
Still is, some might say. Yeah.
Last summer, when we heard UCF, Cincinnati, Houston, and BYU, those four teams kind of came out of nowhere, where it's like people had thrown the names around, but then when they're like,
hey, Houston had been thrown around a couple of times, but
one day it just drops in there. Here's your team. Yeah. And everybody's like, whoa, hey, where did that come from? It could be the same thing when a couple of these teams decide. The ACC calls and says, we'll give you this. They say yes. Bada bing, bada boom. The Big 12, as strong as it feels right now, at the same time, tomorrow we could wake up and 6 teams have decided to leave for some reason.
Yeah, it is true. I don't know how to deflect that argument. That is true. I would probably, if I was on Bet Online, I would bet that the teams that have committed to join the Big 12 and haven't played a game yet or spent a day in the Big 12 will probably go to the Big 12.
You ever heard about Dana Altman when he took the Arkansas job? He leaves Creighton, takes the Arkansas job.
I did.
What does he do?
I'll give you a good one, Drake. I'll give you a good one. Mike Milbury, former Boston Bruin coach. By the way, for those of you who aren't on Twitter, Drake became a hockey fan today.
Yeah, so I ordered a $60 jersey. What's the mascot that I ordered again, by the way?
The Kachina. You ordered the Coyotes one?
I don't. I guess. I think so. Yeah.
The one you posted on Twitter?
Yes, that's the one.
Yes, that's the Kachina Coyote.
No idea what that means. Can you English?
It's just badass, dude. It looks really cool.
Really
they
cool,
wore it in
really
the 90s. They got rid of it for some reason, had some bad uniforms, brought it back.
Game worn XL, $60. That's no shipping, $60.
So it is game player material.
To you, it is.
Because that's what I'm telling you. It might be bigger. It might be even bigger than you think because it's supposed to go over pads. That's why I asked you about the fight strap. This is a different conversation. Mike Milbury was a Bruins legend. It wasn't that great. He's a bad commentator. Anyway, he went to take the coaching job at Boston College.
Hockey?
Taking over for Len
What are we
Sakarski.
talking about, by the way? Okay, yeah, sweet.
Yes. He was the coach for about 5 days.
Yeah.
He realized they had given out way more scholarships than they had. The ship was going down. He stepped down. Jerry York comes in, all-time winningest college hockey coach, just retired this year from Boston College, wins 4 national championships. So anyway, it does happen. I just want to throw a hockey one in there because I know you're a big hockey guy now.
So
right?
Yeah, what you're saying is that
a sweater.
This whole I'm committed thing doesn't help. Who was that
Bill
one
Belichick.
kid? Who was the one guy that played
5
quarterback?
minutes.
He committed to Baylor and then went to Georgia Tech. Already forgot his name.
Austin Novosad? That's crazy. I didn't
No.
hear this news.
No, stop that. Stop. People are going to click on the video now. I'm going to title the video
Austin Novosad to the ACC.
Not Baylor? No, not Austin Novosad. The guy before him that I'm worried will be like him. I don't know. See that guy. Oh, you ready? The ultimate
memorable guy.
Chris Beard, UNLV.
Yeah.
2 weeks. And then he says, I'm going to Texas Tech before he coaches a game.
Let's just keep this going. Let's just do all these.
How many can we name?
I mean, Belichick's the best one, isn't he? From the Belichick tree, Josh McDaniel, the Indianapolis Colts head coach.
Yep, says he's going, and then he's not.
An hour or two.
So Cam, it is not even remotely close to impossible. These teams
stay in the Big 12.
Say, psych, and then they go somewhere else. Look, it makes so much more sense for UCF to be in the ACC and Cincinnati. They're not close to anyone. No one is going to be able to go.
Well, Cincinnati's decently close to West Virginia.
Oh yeah. Thanks. Tell them that.
West Virginia over to the ACC.
Get on that little. Yeah, I'm telling
you, might be just as close as they are to Kansas.
You're like, what you meant? You're like, Baylor will be the outlier. No, if Baylor goes, so does West Virginia and UCF and Cincinnati. Baylor's on that boat pretty early.
That's a long way to West Virginia. That's the longest trip we have in the Big 12.
It doesn't make sense.
If I'm saying they're not going alone, I need them to go with TCU or Texas Tech.
Okay. Yeah. And make a pod.
Sure.
Look, Cam,
I just love pod talk.
All this takes is the Pac-12 saying we want to stay together, and then poaching BYU.
Yeah, so we're going into like such a hypothetical right now. So our hypothetical. Let's recap this.
Yeah,
is if ACC goes for West Virginia, right?
Yeah,
and the Pac-12 is trying to hold on and survive and poach teams from a different conference that they're not even in yet.
Not exactly our hypothetical. Matthew Postins is helping us with this.
Right. And I said the West Virginia thing would be a good move for the ACC and vice versa.
Okay. Thanks.
So we say that, and then we say the Pac-12 offers BYU and who was the other one you said?
I don't think I had another
XYZ. Anyway, so they try BYU, and so now the Big 16 will be Big 16 for this year. So let's say a Big 14 is now a Big 12. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. And it would basically be still what you have right now in terms of quality. And Baylor's like, I want to get out. I want to get out now.
Well,
that's the theory we're going with.
The theory is kind of like not a sinking ship, but almost a sinking ship where BYU leaves. Okay. UCF, West Virginia, and Cincinnati all decide to go to the ACC, which I do not.
Okay. So that's a different theory. All right. So now four teams are going to the ACC. Okay, that's different. That's more of a sinking ship theory.
Right.
I'm not exactly 100% there with you, but I can see your plan a little bit better.
This is a BYU has said goodbye, sayonara, see you later. You just struck out to the Pac-12. So they go to the Pac-12, and then the ACC comes and poaches because Clemson went to the SEC. Look, it's just I don't think it's. I do not think it's near as far-fetched as we've considered it to be.
If all of that happens. And you can bring one of your Texas Big 12 teams.
You're going to buy me a hockey jersey.
Yes, I can believe that. I'll buy you a hockey jersey.
That's what I'm saying.
Baylor hockey jersey. It's a really nice baseball.
That's $100. Oh, yeah.
It was worth it. I love it.
Number 50. There wasn't a number 50 on the roster this year. That's why I
love the number 50. If you have another one, I'll take it. That's like my favorite number.
Anthony Bennett, 50? Was he 50? Bennett?
The guy who played for like the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
That was awful. I don't know.
I think it was 50. I think it was 50. Michael Jordan wore 45 in baseball.
Kyle Lomers. And in basketball, he wore 45.
Also,
a couple years of the Bulls, he wore 45.
How about Derek Holland, Dutch oven 45 for a while for the Rangers? Yep.
I mean, the best far and away is Pedro, but
okay.
Lace Dunn. No, Tweety Carter.
This Cam,
Lace Dunn was 24. Yeah.
This Cam is not as far-fetched. This is not as far-fetched as it could be. We have had much crazier ideas on this show. And I think if it comes to pass, this is my last point, and I'm going home. I'm on Cape Cod. I'm staying here for a little bit. If it comes to pass,
that is home, baby.
UCF to the ACC. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because the ACC says you're close. Like this. Okay. Clemson, SEC, Florida State, SEC. So the ACC says we want to stay together. UCF, you're ours. Ka-ching. West Virginia, you're ours. Ka-ching. We're not done. Cincinnati, you're ours. Ka-ching. Who next? Maybe Memphis. Maybe they get greedy. Memphis. And then they say, well, shoot, we like this whole going to the middle of the country thing. Baylor, Tech. Why would they stop? BYU's gone to the Pac-12 because the Pac-12 needed to fill their holes and they want to stay together. Pac-12 says Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. How strong is the Big 12 really?
So would you like that long term? Like just enjoy it as a fan?
Cam, I don't like any of this long term. None of this looks good.
None of this staying in the Big 12 the way it is right now.
None of this realignment thing is fun.
I would like
maybe if the Big 12, the Big 12 with the new Pac-12 teams, like big rivalry game coming up.
Rose Bowl,
Washington
man. That's
State.
all I care about. That's all I care about at that point is going to the Rose Bowl. That's the impossible dream.
Yeah, Baylor in the Rose Bowl would be kind of nuts. TCU played in the Rose Bowl one time.
I've always wanted to go to the Rose Bowl, but only if my team played in it. And now it's
you can only play in the Rose Bowl if you're independent. That's the rules. Independent, Pac-12 or Big 10. And then no one shows up to the game.
Or the playoff.
Remember that Oregon-Wisconsin one where just no one went to the game?
Or the playoff, Drake.
Playoff, which the Baylor could go to in the ACC because they're not that great at football.
That is true.
I'm Drake Toll. That's Cameron Stewart. Cam, any closing remarks before I go to Chick-fil-A?
I just wanted to shout out our people in Malawi.
Yep.
Mwale.
Everybody out there.
How about Tanzania? We'll just shout out them instead.
Yep.
Or to my British folks or my Scouse folks, because that's not the same.
If you're watching in
what
was the one?
Get in there.
In was it Zambia?
Tanzania.
If you're watching in Tanzania, tell your friends in Zambia.
My folks watching in Deutschland for Boise State.
Mm-hmm.
Danke. Meine Deutsch ist nicht gut. Un Semester auf Deutschklasse an der Universität.
If you're watching in Canada, let your folks in Greenland know. We are Locked On Baylor. I'm Drake Toll. He's Cameron Stewart. You can find us wherever you find your podcast. I don't know if Cam will be back all of next week. We've gotten a lot of complaints.
Probably never. Yeah,
I love that we got complaints, by the way. I love that we got complaints. That's why
65 comments. I
love bringing you back. Yeah. Why do I have so much fun? Too much fun. Too much fun.
Who has more fun than us?
Folks, on Monday, we're going to come back and I'll be darned if Cam's still here. I will be darned, but it might just happen. Drake Toll, Cameron Stewart. I'm going to keep saying our names. This has been, will always be. Please come back. Locked.
I am inevitable.
On. One of my professors watches this show. Dr. Parrish, shout out for emailing me.
Shout out to you.
Locked on Baylor.